The check sat on the mahogany table between us, its crisp edges mocking everything I thought I knew about love. $10,000. That's what they thought it would take to make me disappear. I'm Laura, and this was supposed to be my engagement celebration dinner. Instead, I was sitting across from my future mother-in-law, ex-future mother-in-law, as she explained in her perfectly measured voice why I wasn't suitable for her son. It's nothing personal, Eliana said, sliding the check closer to me. We simply believe Isaac needs someone more, aligned with our family's status. I'm sure you understand. I looked at Isaac, the man I'd loved for 2 years, the man who'd promised me forever. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His father, Reed, sat beside him, stone-faced and silent, like this was just another business transaction. So, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, you're buying me off? We're offering you an opportunity, Eliana corrected, her red lips curving into what might have been meant as a smile. Along with this generous compensation, we have an NDA prepared. Sign both, and we can all move forward amicably. The restaurant's private dining room suddenly felt too small, too warm. A waiter approached with wine, but Eliana waved him away before he could reach our table. Isaac, I whispered, do you have anything to say? He finally looked up, his face pale. Laura, my family... Your family what? I pressed, my hands clenching under the table. My family is right, he finished weakly. We're from different worlds. Different worlds. Right. Because I grew up in a 3-bedroom ranch house instead of a mansion, because my mother worked double shifts as a nurse while his mother organized charity galas. Eliana pulled out a thick envelope. The NDA is quite straightforward. You'll agree not to contact Isaac or any member of our family, not to discuss this arrangement, and to relocate to a different city within 3 months. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of them. And if I don't sign? Reed spoke for the first time, his voice cold. Then we'll ensure every tech company in the state knows not to hire you. Our reach is considerable. I thought about my mother, who'd worked herself to exhaustion to put me through college, who'd taught me that dignity wasn't about money, but about how you carried yourself when people tried to take it from you. Can I read the NDA? I asked. Eliana's smile widened as she passed me the envelope. I took out the document, scanning its pages carefully. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Something else was building inside me. Something hard and sharp and certain. I picked up the pen Eliana offered and signed my name. Then I reached for the check, folding it carefully before tucking it into my purse. A wise decision, Eliana said, gathering the NDA. I trust you'll honor our agreement. I stood up slowly, smoothing my dress, the one I'd bought specially for this dinner, back when I thought it was a celebration. Oh, I'll honor it. But let me tell you something, Eliana. I leaned forward, placing my palms flat on the table. You just made the worst investment of your life. Her perfectly plucked eyebrows rose slightly. Is that a threat? No, I smiled. It's a promise. I walked out of that restaurant with my head high, past the maitre d' who'd fawned over the whole family name, past the valet who'd sneered at my second-hand car. Once inside my Honda, I pulled out my phone and dialed. June? It's me? Remember that startup idea we talked about last month? We're doing it. Tonight. What? Laura, it's 9 p.m. What happened? I looked back at the restaurant where Isaac and his parents were probably already ordering their entrees, probably already forgetting about the girl they'd just paid to disappear. I'll tell you everything, but right now I need you to meet me at that 24-hour diner near your place. Bring your laptop. I started my car, the engine humming to life. We're going to build something that's going to make the halls wish they'd never heard my name. Laura, you're scaring me a little. Good, I said, pulling out onto the street, because by the time I'm done, they're going to be terrified. I ended the call and drove into the night, $10,000 of seed money in my purse and 3 years of tech experience in my head. They thought they were buying my silence. Instead, they'd just funded their own destruction. You were 12 when you built your first computer? June asked, her fingers pausing over her keyboard. We'd been at this diner for 3 hours, empty coffee cups littering our table. Built is generous. I salvaged parts from the recycling center where my mom's boyfriend worked. I smiled, remembering. Mom thought I was crazy, dragging home all those broken pieces. But when I got that thing running, and now you want to build something that'll make the Halls regret ever meeting you? I pulled up the prototype designs on my laptop. Look at this. Every venture capital firm, including Hall Capital, uses outdated analytics systems. They're slow, clunky, and terrible at predicting market trends. June leaned forward, her eyes scanning the screen. And you think we can do better? I know we can. Remember that algorithm I developed for my senior project? The one that could predict startup success rates? The one that got you hired at TechFront straight out of college? I nodded, pulling up more files. I've been refining it for the past 2 years. It's not just about success rates anymore. It can track investor patterns, market fluctuations, even social media sentiment, everything a modern VC firm needs. My phone buzzed. Isaac's name flashed on the screen, the third time tonight. I declined the call. He's trying to reach you? June asked, probably feeling guilty. Too little, too late. I turned my phone face down. The NDA doesn't start until tomorrow, but I don't have anything to say to him. The waitress came by with fresh coffee. June waited until she left before speaking. Laura, I'm with you on this. But are you sure you want to build an entire company on revenge? I pulled out the check from my purse, smoothing its creased edges. See this? Eliana thought this would crush me, make me disappear. But you know what I see? What? Seed money. We can rent a small office space, buy the equipment we need, and still have enough left for 3 months of runway. By then, we'll have a working prototype. June's expression shifted from concern to excitement. You really think we can pull this off? Remember when we were kids? When my mom couldn't afford internet, and I'd walk 2 miles to the library every day just to use their computers? June smiled. You taught yourself coding from YouTube videos. While the librarian kept trying to make me read Nancy Drew instead, I laughed, but it came out hollow. My whole life, people like the Halls have been telling me what I can't do, where I don't belong. Tonight, Eliana looked at me like I was dirt on her shoes. But you know what? What? She forgot to look at my brain. June's phone pinged. She glanced at it, then sat up straighter. Laura, you need to see this. She turned her phone around. It was an internal memo from Hall Capital, marked confidential. How did you get this? Remember Mark from college? He's a junior analyst there now. He says they're worried about new AI-backed platforms disrupting their business model. They're especially concerned about losing their smaller clients to more agile competitors. My heart raced. That's our way in. We target their smaller clients first, prove our system works better, and slowly eat away at their market share. June finished. But Laura, we'll need more than just good tech. We'll need connections, marketing, a solid business plan. I opened a new document and started typing. Then let's make one right now. For the next 2 hours, we mapped out everything. Development timeline, marketing strategy, potential clients. The sun was rising when we finally left the diner, our plans taking shape. In my car, I found 3 more missed calls from Isaac and a text. Please let me explain. What my parents did was wrong. I typed back a single message. You sat there and let them do it. That's all I need to know. Then I blocked his number. At home, I walked past the boxes of Isaac's things I'd planned to move into our new apartment, past the wedding magazines on my coffee table. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. My phone rang again, unknown number this time. Probably Isaac using someone else's phone. I ignored it and started coding instead, letting the familiar rhythm of keystrokes wash away everything else. June was right. Building a company on revenge wasn't ideal, but sometimes the darkest motivations create the brightest innovations. The Halls thought they were paying me to disappear into obscurity. Instead, they were funding their own nightmare. My laptop pinged. An email from June. Found something interesting. Hall Capital's biggest client is getting nervous about their outdated systems. Meeting tomorrow? I smiled as I typed my response. Tomorrow. Let's make them sweat. The sun was fully up now, marking my first day as a startup founder. And somewhere across town, in their mansion on the hill, the Halls had no idea what was coming. Your platform detected a market shift 3 weeks before our current system? The CEO of StartRight Ventures leaned back in his chair, clearly impressed. And the accuracy rate is 92%, I finished, trying to keep my voice steady. This was our 4th demo in 2 weeks, but the first with a company this size. We can set up a trial period if you'd like to compare it directly with your current analytics provider. June pulled up another screen. As you can see, Cleargram also offers real-time social sentiment analysis, which your current provider, Hall Analytics, doesn't support yet. I watched the CEO's face carefully. He didn't know that 6 months ago, I was signing an NDA in a fancy restaurant. Didn't know that the sleek platform impressing him now was built in a tiny office with second-hand furniture and determination fueled by humiliation. Impressive, he said finally. But you're a new company, no track record. Why should we trust you over an established name like Hall? Before I could answer, the door opened and a man in an expensive suit walked in. Ryder Mitchell, one of the most successful venture capitalists in the city. My heart stopped. Because sometimes new blood is exactly what we need, Ryder said, sitting down without invitation. I've been watching Cleargram's development. Their tech is solid. The CEO straightened. You're interested in them, Ryder? Very. In fact, I'm considering a significant investment. Ryder turned to me. Though I'd love to know more about the founder behind this innovation. I kept my face neutral. The technology speaks for itself, Mr. Mitchell. Please, call me Ryder. He smiled, but his eyes were calculating. Interesting that you've managed to stay so anonymous in such a chatty industry. June jumped in smoothly. We believe in letting our results do the talking. Speaking of which, should we show you the predictive modeling feature? The demo continued, but I could feel Ryder watching me. He had connections to Hall Capital, if he figured out who I was. An hour later, StartRight's CEO was signing a contract, our biggest client yet. In the elevator afterward, June grabbed my arm. Laura, we did it, but Ryder Mitchell, that was unexpected. And dangerous, I muttered. He's friends with Reed Hall. But if he's genuinely interested in investing, we need to be careful. One wrong move and my phone buzzed. Unknown number again. I'd been getting these calls regularly for months. June frowned. Still Isaac? Probably. Let's focus on what matters. With StartRight signed, other firms will notice. We need to... Ms. Laura? Ryder's voice cut through the lobby. He was walking toward us, that same calculating smile in place. Do you have a moment? June squeezed my arm and headed out, leaving me alone with him. Remarkable technology you've developed, he said, almost like you knew exactly what Hall Capital's weaknesses were. My pulse quickened. Good market research. Indeed. He pulled out his phone, showing me a news article from 6 months ago, a society page photo of Isaac and me at a charity gala. Very good research. The floor seemed to tilt. Mr. Mitchell, relax. I'm not here to expose you. He pocketed his phone. I'm here because I recognize potential when I see it, and revenge, when properly channeled, can be an excellent motivator. I don't know what you're talking about. No? He laughed softly. Then let me be clear. I want to invest in Cleargram, significantly. And before you worry, I have no love for the Halls. Reed killed a deal I'd worked months on last year. Let's just say I understand the desire for strategic retaliation. I studied him carefully. Why should I trust you? Because I can help you hurt them where it really counts, their client base. He handed me a card. Think about it. Call me when you're ready to take this to the next level. He walked away, leaving me holding his card and feeling like I'd just met either a powerful ally or a dangerous enemy. My phone buzzed again. This time it was June. Just saw the news. Hall Capital is trying to acquire Microtech, one of our target clients. I looked at Ryder's card, then at the message. If Hall Capital got Microtech, they'd block us out of a huge market segment. We needed to move faster. I dialed Ryder's number. He answered on the first ring. That was quick, he said. I'm not saying yes yet, but I'm willing to talk. Perfect. Dinner tomorrow? I know a quiet place where we won't run into any mutual acquaintances. I agreed and hung up, watching the city lights flicker on outside. 6 months ago, I'd walked out of a restaurant with nothing but a check and a broken heart. Now I was walking into another restaurant with a growing company and a dangerous proposition. The difference? This time, I was the one making the rules. Get down, June hissed, yanking me behind a potted plant in the hotel lobby. Through the leaves, I watched Eliana Hall glide past in her signature red-soled heels, heading toward the restaurant where I was supposed to be meeting a potential client. How is she here? I whispered. This meeting wasn't public knowledge. Someone must have tipped her off. June pulled out her phone. I'll call Mr. Patterson. Tell him we need to reschedule. My hands were shaking. 6 months of carefully avoiding the holes, of building cleargram behind a shield of privacy, and now Eliana was feet away from discovering everything. Ladies, Ryder's voice made us both jump. He stood behind us, looking amused. While I appreciate a good game of hide and seek, perhaps we should move this somewhere else. He led us through a service corridor to the parking garage. Once inside his car, he turned to me. Eliana's not here by accident. Hall Capital's board meeting is upstairs. But this does prove what I've been saying. You need better protection. What kind of protection? June asked. The kind that comes with having a major VC firm behind you. Ryder handed me a folder. My official investment offer, enough to triple your development speed and hire a proper legal team. I opened the folder, then nearly dropped it. This is $20 million, he finished. For 25% of Cleargram. June leaned over to look. That's actually a fair valuation considering our growth rate. But there's a catch, I said, meeting Ryder's eyes. Isn't there? He smiled. Smart girl. Yes, I want to know everything. Who you really are, why the halls paid you off, all of it. No more secrets. My phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Patterson. Meeting canceled. Hall Capital just offered us a better deal. Damn it, I showed the message to June. They're moving faster. Not just there, June said, pulling up her laptop. Look at this. A Hall subsidiary has been quietly buying up patents in our space. They're trying to box us in legally. Ryder leaned forward. I can help with that. My firm has connections that could get us ahead of their patent grab. But I need to know what I'm really investing in, or rather, who. I stared at the folder in my hands. The numbers were life-changing, but telling Ryder everything meant trusting someone again, something I hadn't done since that night at the restaurant. If I tell you, I said slowly, it stays between us. June already knows, but no one else can. Of course. I took a deep breath. 2 years ago, I met Isaac Hall at a tech conference. For the next hour, I told him everything. The whirlwind romance, the engagement, the humiliation, the check that started it all. Ryder listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker. Those patents they're buying, he said when I finished. I know which ones you need. Give me 2 days. How? Let's just say Eliana isn't the only one with connections. He started the car. But Laura, watch your back. If they're making moves this aggressive, they must suspect something. Back at our office, June was unusually quiet. "What is it?" I asked. She turned her monitor around. "Remember that analytics system Whole Capital launched last month? The one suspiciously similar to our early prototype?" "Yeah? I traced the development team. One of them used to work at TechFront when you were there." My stomach dropped. "They've been watching me this whole time." "Probably, but that's not all." She pulled up an email. "This came while we were out, from a journalist named Chelsea Newton. She says—" June paused. "She says she's your sister." "I don't have a sister." "Half-sister, according to her. And she knows about the halls. Says she wants to tell your story." I collapsed into my chair. "A sister? And she knew about the halls? It had to be a trap." My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. But this time, when I looked at the message, my blood froze. "Laura, this is Eliana. Impressive work with Cleargram. Perhaps we should discuss a potential collaboration for old time's sake." June read the message over my shoulder. "They know." "No," I said, standing up. "They suspect, but they don't have proof. Not yet." I picked up Ryder's folder. "Call him. Tell him we accept the investment, but I want those patents secured first." "And the journalist? Your supposed sister?" I stared at Chelsea's email, my finger hovering over the delete button, but something stopped me. "Forward it to my personal email. I want to look into this more." June nodded, then suddenly grabbed my arm. "Laura, look." On her screen was a breaking news alert. Whole Capital announces revolutionary AI platform launch next month. They weren't just trying to box us in. They were trying to beat us to market. The game was changing, and I needed to change with it. The woman sitting across from me at the coffee shop had our father's eyes. It was like looking at a piece of my own reflection, but twisted into someone else's face. "So," Chelsea said, stirring her untouched latte, "you really had no idea about me? Dad left when I was 3. Mom never talked about him." I studied her carefully. "How did you find me?" "I'm a journalist. It's what I do." She pulled out a folder. "But more importantly, I found these." Inside were photos of Eliana and Reed Hall at various social events over the years. In several, they were with my father, looking much older than I remembered him. "He's been working with Hall Capital for 15 years, Chelsea explained. "That's how I connected the dots when I heard about their newest rival, a mysterious startup founder they paid to disappear." My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. "Does he know about what they did to me?" "No, but he might be useful. He handles their private investment portfolio." "I don't want anything to do with him." "Laura," Chelsea leaned forward, "think about it. He has access to their entire investment strategy. If he knew what they did to his daughter—" "Which daughter?" I cut in. "The one he stayed with, or the one he abandoned?" Chelsea flinched. "Fair point, but I'm not here just because of him. I want to tell your story. A self-made woman taking on one of the biggest investment firms in the country. It's compelling. It's also covered by an NDA. NDAs don't hold up when there's evidence of corporate sabotage." She pulled out more documents. "Like Hall Capital stealing your early designs through a former co-worker, or them threatening potential clients to keep them from working with you." My phone buzzed. June's special ringtone. "Excuse me," I said, stepping away from the table. "Laura," June's voice was urgent. "Whole Capital just announced their platform launch date. It's next week, not next month." "What? That's impossible. Their development timeline?" "They must have fast-tracked it. They're going after our biggest clients first." I looked back at Chelsea, still sitting with her evidence spread out. "I'll call you back." Returning to the table, I found Chelsea studying me. "Bad news? Why should I trust you?" I asked instead of answering. "You show up out of nowhere, claiming to be family with all this convenient information." "Because I hate them too." Her voice hardened. Dad might work for them, but they made sure the illegitimate daughter never got near their precious social circle. Sound familiar? My phone buzzed again. Ryder this time. I ignored it. If I let you tell my story, I said slowly, what's your angle? The truth. How the Halls use money and influence to crush anyone they see as beneath them. How you're building something that could change the whole industry, not because of connections or privilege, but because you're actually brilliant at what you do. Another buzz. A text from June. Ryder says it's urgent. Hall Capital is making moves. I need time to think, I told Chelsea. Time might be something you don't have. She gathered her documents. They're moving faster now, aren't they? Let me help. Before they bury you completely. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a news alert. Hall Capital announces revolutionary partnership with major tech firms. Fine, I said, but we do this my way. No mention of Dad, no family drama. Focus on the business angle. Deal. Chelsea stood up. One more thing. Watch out for Ryder Mitchell. His history with the Halls is complicated. I froze. What do you mean? Let's just say he's played both sides before. Be careful who you trust, sister. She left me with a business card and a head full of questions. Back at the office, June and Ryder were waiting. Where have you been? Ryder demanded. Hall Capital is making their move. They're launching next week, and they've already signed 3 major partnerships. I know. Do you? Because while you were off doing whatever, they've been positioning themselves to crush Cleargram before we can respond. Laura, June interrupted, there's something else. The patents Ryder secured for us, Hall Capital is challenging them. They're claiming prior art. I sank into my chair, Chelsea's warnings about Ryder echoing in my head. How did they know which patents to challenge? What are you implying? Ryder asked sharply. Nothing, yet. I pulled up our project timeline. June, push our launch date up. We're going live before they do. That's impossible, Ryder protested. The system isn't ready. It will be. I met his eyes. Unless you have a reason we shouldn't. The tension crackled between us until June cleared her throat. Laura? You should see this email. It was from Eliana, sent to all major tech newsletters. Hall Capital welcomes competition, questions origins of rival software. They weren't just trying to beat us to market, they were coming for my reputation. The war was starting, and I still didn't know who my real allies were. You can't seriously trust him, June whispered, glancing at Ryder across our war room. 3 days had passed since Hall Capital's announcement, and we'd barely left the office. I don't, I murmured back. But right now, we need him. Ryder was on the phone, working his network. Whatever Chelsea's warnings meant, he'd spent the last 72 hours proving his value. Already, he'd secured meetings with 5 major clients who were having doubts about Hall Capital's rushed launch. Got it, Ryder said, ending his call. Microtech is willing to meet. They're nervous about Hall's new platform. Apparently, the beta testing isn't going well. I pulled up our launch timeline. When? Tomorrow morning. Their CEO specifically asked for you to be there. June shot me a warning look. That's cutting it close to our launch. It's worth the risk, I said. Microtech is exactly the kind of client Hall Capital can't afford to lose. My phone lit up with a text from Chelsea. Stories ready. Publishing tomorrow morning before markets open. Last chance to back out. I showed it to June, who frowned. The timing is perfect, Ryder cut in, reading over my shoulder. Microtech's CEO will have seen the article before our meeting. It adds pressure. Or it spooks them completely, June argued. No, I said, making my decision. We move forward. Text Chelsea back. Do it. The next hours were a blur of preparation. Our team worked through the night, fine-tuning our platform for launch, while I rehearsed my presentation for Microtech. At 6 a.m., Chelsea's article dropped. The woman they tried to pay off, how tech's biggest dynasty created their own worst enemy. By 7 a.m., my phone was exploding with notifications. The story was spreading like wildfire through tech circles. Laura, June called from her desk. Hall Capital stock just dropped 3 points in pre-market trading. Ryder walked in, looking pleased. Microtech's CEO just confirmed he's bringing their whole board to the meeting. They're spooked by the article. Good, I said, but my hands were shaking as I gathered my presentation materials. The elevator ride to Microtech's offices felt endless. June squeezed my arm. You've got this. The boardroom was packed when we entered. Microtech's CEO, David, stood to greet us. Quite a morning, he said, gesturing to a tablet showing Chelsea's article. We had no idea about your history with Hall Capital. I prefer to let our technology speak for itself, I replied smoothly. Shall we begin? Halfway through my presentation, the door burst open. Isaac walked in. My heart stopped. He looked older, tired, wearing the same kind of expensive suit his father favored. I apologize for interrupting, he said to the room, but his eyes were on me. But as Hall Capital's new head of client relations, I felt I should be here. June started to protest, but I held up my hand. No problem at all. In fact, your timing is perfect. I clicked to the next slide. I was just about to demonstrate how our system outperforms Hall Capital's current analytics by 43%. Isaac's face tightened. Our new platform is 3 months behind schedule based on our analysis, I cut in. And from what I hear, the beta testing isn't going well. Would you like to comment on that? The board members shifted uncomfortably. Isaac loosened his tie. Laura, he said softly, can we talk privately? Everything I have to say can be said right here. I turned back to the board. Your company has a choice to make. Stay with an outdated system backed by a legacy name or partner with the future. David leaned forward. Show us the comparison data again. For the next hour, I methodically took apart every advantage Hall Capital claimed to have. Isaac sat silently, watching me destroy his family's reputation with cold, hard facts. When we finished, David stood up. We'll need to discuss internally, but... He glanced at Isaac apologetically. I think we're ready for a change. Outside the boardroom, Isaac tried to catch my arm. Laura, please. Don't, I said, my voice ice. You had your chance to speak up. You chose silence. My family is about to learn what it feels like to lose something they value. I smiled, the same smile his mother had given me that night. How's Eliana handling the stock drop? He flinched. This isn't you. The Laura I knew died the night your mother wrote that check. I walked away, June and Ryder flanking me. In the elevator, Ryder checked his phone. 3 more clients want meetings. The article is doing exactly what we hoped. Laura, June said quietly. Hall Capital's stock is down 12% now. I thought of Isaac's face, of Eliana's smug smile the night she tried to buy my disappearance. Good, let it burn. The elevator doors opened to a lobby full of reporters. The war had gone public, and I was finally ready to step into the spotlight. The private dining room at LeBlanc felt hauntingly familiar. Different restaurant, same scene, except this time Eliana was the one trying to salvage a situation spinning out of control. Laura, she said, her smile as artificial as ever. You've certainly made quite a name for yourself. That's funny, I replied, considering you paid me to disappear. She flinched slightly but recovered quickly. Ancient history. We clearly underestimated your potential. Perhaps we can discuss a more mutually beneficial arrangement? Like what? A merger. Hall Capital could acquire Cleargram for a very generous sum. You'd have a seat on our board, of course. I took a sip of water, letting her squirm. 2 weeks had passed since Chelsea's article. Hall Capital's stock had dropped 20%, and they'd lost 6 major clients to us. That's an interesting offer, I said finally, especially considering your legal team is still trying to challenge our patents. A misunderstanding, easily resolved. Like how you misunderstood my worth when you handed me that check. The door opened and Reed walked in, followed by Isaac. My heart jumped, but I kept my face neutral. Laura. Reed nodded, sitting beside his wife. You've built something impressive. Dad, Isaac started, but Reed silenced him with a look. We're prepared to offer $50 million, Reed continued, plus a guaranteed executive position. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and slid it across the table. See that number? That's what Cleargram is worth now, and that's just the beginning. Eliana's eyes widened at the figure. Surely we can negotiate. No, I cut her off. We can't, because in exactly 1 hour, I'm giving a keynote speech at the Tech Innovation Summit. Would you like to know what I'm announcing? The color drained from Reed's face. The Morrison contract. Among other things. I stood up. You should watch the live stream. It'll be quite educational. Laura, wait, Isaac called as I reached the door. Please don't do this. I turned back. You know what's funny? That check your mother gave me? I invested every penny of it in starting Cleargram. So in a way, you funded your own destruction. The tech summit was packed. June stood backstage with me, reviewing last-minute details. Riders in position? I asked. Front row. The press is primed, investors are salivating, and she checked her phone. Hall Capital's stock is already dipping on rumors about the Morrison announcement. I adjusted my microphone. Any sign of the Halls? Reed and Eliana just arrived, Isaac too. Perfect. The lights dimmed, and I walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. Spotlights found me as I reached the podium. 3 years ago, I began, I learned a painful lesson about power, about how old money and established names can make you feel worthless. I found Eliana's face in the crowd, but they forgot something important. True power isn't inherited, it's built. The screens behind me lit up with Cleargram's latest analytics dashboard. Today, I'm announcing 3 things. First, our partnership with Morrison Global, making Cleargram the exclusive analytics provider for their $2 trillion in managed assets. Gasps rippled through the audience. Morrison had been Hall Capital's biggest client for 20 years. Second, our new AI-driven investment platform, which has tested 200% more accurate than any competitor's system. I clicked to the next slide, showing comparison data. In the front row, Ryder was smiling like a shark. And finally, I paused, finding Isaac's eyes in the crowd. I'm announcing that Cleargram will be offering free analytics services to any startup founded by individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds, because talent doesn't belong to any one class or family name. The applause was deafening. In the back, I saw Reed and Eliana leaving hurriedly, their faces ashen. One last thing, I added. Success is the best revenge, but karma... I smiled directly at Isaac. Karma is watching your mother's $10,000 investment turn into your family's biggest nightmare. The crowd erupted. Phones flashed. Tomorrow's headlines were writing themselves. Backstage, June hugged me tight. That was brilliant, but brutal. They earned it. I checked my phone. Hall Capital's stock had dropped another 15% during my speech. Ryder appeared, grinning. Reed just resigned as CEO. Board forced him out. Eliana's charity board is next. Laura, June said softly. Isaac's outside. He wants to talk. I thought about the girl I'd been, so in love, so naive. Tell him he had his chance to talk, 3 years ago, in a different restaurant. My phone buzzed. Chelsea. Story's already viral. Want to do a follow-up interview? I typed back, not yet. Let them burn for a while. The revenge I'd dreamed of was complete, so why didn't I feel as satisfied as I'd imagined? The email from Isaac sat unopened in my inbox as I watched the sunset from my office. The city lights were coming alive, each one representing a story, a struggle, a triumph. Mine was just one of them. Still here? June walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. The celebration party started an hour ago. Just thinking, I gestured to my screen. Isaac sent an email. And? Haven't opened it yet. I took the coffee. Did you see the latest numbers? Hard to miss. Hall Capital's board is restructuring the entire company. Reed's resignation sparked a mass exodus. June sat down. We won, Laura, completely. Then why doesn't it feel like winning? My phone buzzed, Ryder calling. I let it go to voicemail. Because revenge is empty, a voice said from the doorway. Chelsea stood there, notepad in hand. Trust me, I know. How did you get up here? Your security knows me, she walked in, sitting across from me. I came to show you something. She pulled out an old photograph. A man holding two babies, one in each arm. Dad took this the day I was born, Chelsea said. You were 3. It's the only picture I have of us together. I stared at the photo, at the father I barely remembered holding the sister I never knew I had. He was a coward, Chelsea continued, running between 2 families, then choosing the one that offered better connections. But his weakness doesn't define us. June touched my arm. Open the email, Laura. With trembling fingers, I clicked. Laura, I've spent 3 years being a coward, just like my father. The night my mother tried to buy you off, I sat silent, watching her destroy something beautiful because of her own prejudices. I lost the best person I've ever known because I was too weak to stand up to my family. You've proven them all wrong. Not just about your abilities, but about everything they believed about class and worth. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm writing to say you were right, about all of it. I've resigned from Hall Capital. Not because I had to, but because I finally found the courage to choose what's right over what's expected. Isaac. Wow, June whispered. My phone buzzed again. Ryder. This time I answered. Laura, I need to tell you something. His voice was urgent. I'm buying controlling shares in Hall Capital. What? The stock price crash made them vulnerable. With Reed gone, I can take over. But I want to do something different. Partner with Cleogram, create a fund specifically for underprivileged entrepreneurs. I thought about Eliana's face when she'd offered me that check, about how power works. No, I said. No. I don't want to take over Hall Capital. I want to build something new, something that was never tainted by their legacy. Chelsea was scribbling in her notepad. Now that's a headline. What are you writing? I asked. The real story, not about revenge, but about redemption, about 2 sisters who found each other because of shared pain, but built something stronger than bitterness. June was grinning. She's right. This isn't about destroying the halls anymore. It's about building something they could never imagine. I looked at the photo again, 2 babies who never got the chance to be sisters. Then at June, who'd believed in me when I had nothing but rage and a check. At Chelsea, who turned her pain into purpose. Okay, I said, let's write a new story. I opened a reply to Isaac. You're right. You don't deserve forgiveness yet. But courage, even late, counts for something. If you're serious about changing things, there's a position open at our new entrepreneurship foundation. No family connections, no privileges, just hard work and merit. Your choice. Laura. The party's still going, June reminded me. Your entire team is waiting to celebrate with their founder. Our team, I corrected her. Chelsea, want to join? You can interview everyone for your story. The story of how 2 abandoned daughters built an empire. She smiled. I wouldn't miss it. Walking out, I took one last look at my office. The view wasn't just city lights anymore. It was possibility. Somewhere out there was another girl with dreams bigger than her circumstances, waiting for a chance. Thanks to Eliana's check and her own arrogance, I could now give her that chance. Coming? June called. Yeah, I said, turning off my computer. Let's go build something beautiful. The elevator doors closed on the empire I'd built from pain, but they opened to something better, a future built on hope. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's creation. And I was just getting started.
Patricia stood by my hospital bed, pretending to be concerned. "Such a shame about the brake failure," she said, trying to look sympathetic, but I could see the slight smile she tried to hide. She watched me struggle to reach for my water glass, clearly enjoying my pain. "I'm Emma Carter, and 3 days ago, my mother-in-law tried to kill me. It happened on a quiet Sunday afternoon. I was driving home from my nursing shift when my brakes failed on Mason Hill Road, the steepest street in our town. The brake pedal went straight to the floor, and nothing could stop the car. But instead of panicking, I used my emergency training. I downshifted, pulled the emergency brake, and steered the car into a ditch. It saved my life. I knew then that the accident wasn't an accident at all." Earlier that day, Mike, the mechanic who checked my car, showed me his phone with a serious look. "Someone cut your brake lines on purpose," he said. He even had security footage showing Patricia sneaking into his shop the night before, wearing big sunglasses to hide her face. She said she was just there to borrow some sugar. Patricia never liked me. From the day I married her son James 5 years ago, she made it clear that I wasn't the kind of wife she wanted for him. I was just a nurse from a middle-class family, not the high society woman she had imagined. But I never thought she hated me enough to kill me. Patricia adjusted her scarf and continued, "The doctors say you're recovering well." What a relief. James was so worried. "Good thing you both got that life insurance policy last month. The one I recommended." There it was, the $2 million life insurance policy Patricia insisted we get, with her as the backup beneficiary. At the time, it seemed like just another one of her controlling ideas. But now, lying in his hospital bed, it was obvious why she wanted it so badly. "Yes, good thing," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "The police should finish their investigation soon." I watched her face closely. Her calm mask slipped just a little. "Investigation?" She tried to laugh. "That's not necessary for a simple accident, is it?" "Oh, didn't you know?" I said. "They found evidence of tampering. They're checking all the security cameras in the area." Patricia gripped her purse tighter. "I'm sure it's just a formality," she said quickly. "Small-town police always make a big deal out of nothing." Just then, James walked in, looking tired but relieved to see me. "Hey, love. How are you feeling?" he asked, his smile warm and genuine. "Better now that you're here," I said, grateful for his support. No matter how hard Patricia tried to cause problems, James always stood by me. Patricia put on her fake worried mom look. "James, you should take a break. I'll stay with Emma." "Actually, Mom," James said, hesitating. "The nurse mentioned some unusual bruising on Emma. They think the police should look into it." Patricia's face went pale. "The police?" she stammered. "They think someone did this on purpose. They're checking all possibilities," James said, "including brake tampering." Patricia put her hand to her throat, pretending to be shocked. Who would do such a thing? I looked her right in the eyes. "Yes," I said. "Who indeed?" Patricia quickly made up an excuse about a charity meeting and hurried out. James and I exchanged a look. He'd noticed her panic too. What Patricia didn't know was that Mike gave all the evidence, the cut brake lines, the security footage, to the police. She thought she had the perfect plan to get rid of me, but her scheme was about to blow up in her face. As I lay in my hospital bed, I realized Patricia wasn't just trying to kill me. She had been manipulating us for years, but her plan had failed, and now the truth was coming out. The fight wasn't over, it was just getting started. Patricia visited me in the hospital, still pretending to be concerned. She didn't know that her world was about to fall apart. A few days later, Detective Martinez questioned her right in my hospital room. "Mrs. Shaw," the detective said, using Patricia's maiden name, "why was your car seen at Morgan's auto shop the night before the accident?" Patricia tried to stay calm, but I saw her confidence start to crack. James stood by the window, watching his mother with disbelief. "I was just borrowing sugar from Emma and James's house," Patricia said quickly. "I must have driven by the shop on my way home." At 11:30 p.m., Detective Martinez raised an eyebrow. "That's pretty late for baking." Patricia's hand shook as she adjusted her fancy watch. "I host charity brunches. They require a lot of planning." The detective didn't back down. "The security footage shows you spending 20 minutes under Emma's car. That's a long time to be borrowing sugar." Patricia turned pale. She hadn't realized that the shop had new security cameras. Mike had shown me the video, clear as day, of Patricia cutting the brake lines. "There's been a mistake." Patricia said, her voice losing its usual confidence. I would never. Emma is like a daughter to me. I almost laughed. Patricia had spent 5 years trying to ruin my marriage. She always found ways to exclude me from family events and constantly told James he could do better. James stepped forward, his face hard. Mom, they found your fingerprints on the brake lines. Patricia looked at him in shock. James, you don't believe this, do you? They also found the wire cutters in your garden shed. He continued, his voice shaking, with Emma's blood on them. Patricia's carefully built world started to collapse. The police had searched her house and found the wire cutters she used. They also found a letter she was writing to the life insurance company hated before my accident. I can explain, Patricia started, but Detective Martinez didn't let her. We also found something interesting about the life insurance policy on your first daughter-in-law, the detective said. I looked at James confused. I didn't know about this. James's first wife, Sarah, had died in an accident 10 years ago, before I met him. Patricia never talked about her, except to make comparisons that made me feel like I didn't measure up. That was different, Patricia snapped, then quickly shut her mouth, realizing her mistake. Detective Martinez leaned in. Different how? The room went quiet. James's face went pale as he realized what Patricia was admitting. Mom, he whispered, his voice shaking. What did you do to Sarah? Patricia jumped up, clutching her purse. I don't have to listen to this. I'm leaving. But Detective Martinez had other plans. She nodded to 2 officers standing at the door. Mrs. Shaw, we need you to come with us. We have questions about Sarah Thompson's accident in 2013. As the officers led Patricia away, her usual calm was gone. She struggled, her hair falling out of place. James, you can't let them do this. I did it all for you. But James didn't move. He sat next to me, holding my hand as we watched his mother being taken away. When she was gone, he looked at me, his eyes full of pain. I can't believe Sarah's accident. I never even questioned it, he said, his voice breaking. Mom always told me Sarah wouldn't want me to grieve too long. I squeezed his hand, thinking about how close Patricia had come to getting rid of me too. But unlike Sarah, I had survived, and I had exposed Patricia for who she really was. Detective Martinez turned to us. We're reopening the investigation into Sarah Thompson's death. Mr. Carter, we'll need to talk to you about your mother's actions back then. James nodded, still in shock. I remembered Patricia's smug smile when she visited me in the hospital, thinking she had won. But she had underestimated me. Her perfect plan had failed, and instead of getting another insurance payout, she was facing prison for both my attempted murder and the death of James's first wife. The game was over, and Patricia had lost everything. The trial happened 6 months after my accident. I was fully healed but more aware of how close I'd come to dying. Patricia sat at the defendant's table, no longer polished and perfect. Her fancy clothes were replaced by plain ones, and gray roots showed in her once perfect hair. The evidence against her was clear. The courtroom watched security footage of Patricia cutting my brake lines. They showed the life insurance policy she took out on me and on Sarah, James's first wife. But what really sealed her fate was the new evidence about Sarah's death. The investigation into Sarah Thompson's death showed that her car was tampered with, just like Emma's, the prosecutor told the jury. We found Patricia Shaw's fingerprints on documents canceling an autopsy, papers she had no right to sign. I glanced at James. He listened to the details of Sarah's death, his face tense. I could see the pain and anger he had been hiding for years. When he testified, his voice was steady, but his words were sharp. My mother controlled everything, he said, looking right at Patricia. She picked my friends, my career, even my wives. But when they didn't fit her idea of perfect, she got rid of them. He paused, his voice breaking just a little. She killed them. Patricia tried to defend herself by claiming she was protecting James from gold diggers and social climbers. But the facts told a different story. Sarah and I both had our own jobs and money. The only threat we posed was to Patricia's control over her son's life. It took the jury less than 3 hours to decide. On the charge of attempted murder of Emma Carter, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of first-degree murder of Sarah Thompson, we find the defendant guilty. Patricia finally lost her calm. James, she screamed as the guards took her away. I did it all for you. They weren't good enough for you. But James didn't look at her. He held my hand as the judge sentenced her to life in prison without parole. Reporters surrounded us as we left the courthouse. "How does it feel to know your mother-in-law tried to kill you?" one asked. "Do you have any comments on solving Sarah Thompson's case?" James put his arm around me protectively and said, "My mother caused pain to a lot of people. Today justice was served. That's all we have to say." That evening, we sat in our living room, still processing everything. The house felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted. I talked to Sarah's parents after the trial. James said quietly, "They always felt something was off about her accident but couldn't prove it. They thanked us for helping them find the truth." I held his hand. "They have closure now. So do we." James let out a bitter laugh. "You know the sad part? Mom was always scared of losing me, of losing her place in my life. In the end, she did just that. Her actions pushed me away." The doorbell rang. It was Mike, the mechanic whose security footage was key to convicting Patricia. He stood awkwardly at the door. "I just wanted to see how you're doing, Mrs. Carter." When I saw those cut brake lines, he shook his head. "Well, I'm glad you're still here. Some people get what they deserve." After Mike left, I thought about Patricia, now alone in a prison cell. Her need for control cost her everything: her freedom, her son's love, and her image of being the perfect mother. That night, James and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset. The air was warm and smelled of summer. For the first time in months, I felt truly at peace. James looked at me and asked, "What now?" I smiled, thinking about the future, a future without Patricia's dark influence. Now we live our lives the way we want. No more looking over our shoulders. No more fear. Patricia had tried to end my story, but she ended her own instead. And my story was just beginning. Sometimes justice comes in unexpected ways. And sometimes surviving is the best revenge. Your mother is dead to us. Amanda's voice slithered through the air like poison as she knelt before my children. Her lips curled in a wicked smirk. Your dad's new wife is your real mom now. Isn't that right, kids? Emma, just 8 years old, pressed her trembling hands to her ears, while 6-year-old Lucas clutched his sister's arm, his sobs silent but gut-wrenching. I stood frozen in the doorway of my ex-husband's house, my pulse roaring in my ears. I had come to pick them up from their weekend visit, only to walk into this. "That's enough, Amanda," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady despite the fury surging inside me. Years of medical training had taught me how to maintain control in the face of chaos. "Emma, Lucas, get your bags. We're leaving." Amanda turned to me, her manicured nails tapping against the granite countertop, her expression dripping with satisfaction. "Oh look, the abandoned wife finally graces us with her presence." Her eyes flicked over me, searching for cracks in my armor. "How does it feel knowing Mark traded you in for someone younger? Prettier?" I ignored her. She wasn't worth my breath. My children were. "Come on, sweethearts," I murmured, kneeling to their level. "Mom's here now." It had been 6 months since Mark walked out, leaving behind the wreckage of our marriage for his perky, wide-eyed dental hygienist, Jessica. The divorce had been brutal, but I had fought to keep things civil for the sake of my children. Amanda, however, had waged a private war, one she intended to win by turning Emma and Lucas against me. We barely made it to the car before Lucas broke the silence. "Aunt Amanda said you didn't love us enough to keep our family together," he whispered, his little fingers curling tightly around mine. The words gutted me. I crouched in front of him, brushing his tear-streaked cheek with my thumb. "Lucas, sweetheart, listen to me. Sometimes grown-ups stop loving each other, but that has nothing to do with how much we love you. I will always, always love you and Emma more than anything in this world." Emma stood a few feet away, her arms crossed. At 8, she was trying to make sense of something far beyond her years. Then why did Daddy leave? Why does he love Jessica more than us? My throat tightened. "Get in the car, baby," I said gently. "We'll talk about this at home." As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw Amanda standing at the window, watching, smirking. She had resented me from the beginning, the ambitious trauma surgeon who had put herself through medical school while her brother was still finding himself. When Mark left, she had finally been set free to spit out the venom she had kept bottled up for years. The drive home was thick with silence, heavy with questions too painful to answer in a single car ride. I thought about the years of Amanda's snide remarks, the whispered accusations that my career had made me a bad wife, the way she had delighted in my downfall. Back home, I made hot chocolate, the ritual that had always soothed my children's worst days. As they clutched their mugs, I searched for the right words. You know how sometimes at school, you might stop being friends with someone? I asked gently. It doesn't mean either of you is bad, just that you've grown apart. That's what happened with Daddy and me. But that doesn't change how much we both love you. Emma frowned. Aunt Amanda says Daddy chose Jessica because she's younger and prettier. I exhaled slowly, suppressing the ache those words ignited. Beauty isn't just about looks, sweetheart. It's about kindness, about how you treat people. It's about love. Lucas climbed onto my lap, pressing his chocolate sticky cheek against my shoulder. I don't want a new mom. I want you. I wrapped both of them in my arms, holding them as tightly as I could. And you have me. Always. That night, after I tucked them into bed, I sat alone in my home office, staring at the framed family photos I still couldn't bring myself to take down. My phone buzzed. A message from Amanda. The kids deserve better than a mother who puts her career first. They're better off with Jessica. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and began documenting everything. The insults, the manipulation, the emotional warfare. Something told me I would need this record soon. And I was right. Because what came next would test everything I believed about love, about justice, and about how far I would go to protect my children. 3 months passed in a blur of hospital shifts, custody exchanges, and the exhausting effort of rebuilding my children's confidence. Emma and Lucas were in therapy, slowly unraveling the tangled emotions of their father's betrayal and Amanda's relentless poison. I documented every cruel remark, every manipulative whisper, building a case to limit their exposure to her toxicity. Then came the night that changed everything. I was midway through a grueling 12-hour shift in the ER when the double doors burst open. Paramedics rushed in, their voices sharp and urgent. Female, mid-30s, severe allergic reaction. Airways closing fast, she's crashing. I turned and the world tilted. Amanda lay on the gurney, her face grotesquely swollen, gasping for breath. Behind her, my ex-husband Mark kept pace, his face ashen. She ate something with shellfish, he stammered. She didn't know. Dr. Carter, the head nurse, interrupted. We need you now. For one split second, I hesitated. The woman before me, the one now clawing at her throat, fighting for air, had spent months trying to tear my children from me. Just last week, she had told Emma that I chose work over my family, that I wanted to be away from them. Now her life was in my hands. Get me an epinephrine injection, I ordered, pushing everything aside, and start an IV line. I wasn't a mother in this moment. I wasn't the woman she had tried to break. I was a doctor, and doctors saved lives, even when they didn't deserve it. Dr. Carter, her throat's completely closed. No time. No hesitation. Emergency tracheotomy. Now. Mark paled. Wait. Alex is doing the surgery. Can't someone else? There isn't time, I snapped, already making the first incision. She'll die if we wait. The next 20 minutes were a storm of precision and adrenaline. My hands never wavered. My mind stayed sharp. I shut out the memories, the barbed insults, the gleeful jabs, the damage done to my children, and did what I was trained to do. And then, her breathing steadied. The immediate danger passed. She's stable, I announced, stripping off my gloves. Start her on antihistamines. Keep her overnight. As I turned to leave, Mark caught my arm. Alex, thank you. I know things haven't been. I took an oath. I interrupted, my voice steel. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have other patients. I made it halfway down the hallway before ducking into an empty consultation room. My hands trembled as the adrenaline wore off. I had just saved the life of the woman who had spent the last year trying to destroy mine. The confrontation. The next morning, as I finished my shift, Amanda's nurse approached me. She's asking for you. Want me to tell her you're unavailable? I should. But something in me whispered go. When I stepped into Amanda's room, she was propped up in bed, the swelling in her face reduced. She looked smaller, defenseless without her usual armor of makeup and contempt. How are you feeling? I kept my tone neutral, professional. Like I almost died, she rasped, And like I owe you my life. I flicked through her charts. The emergency team did their job. Be more careful about what you eat. Alex, she said softly. I stilled. She had never called me by my name before. I know what I've done to you. To the kids. I've been, she swallowed. Horrible doesn't even begin to cover it. I sighed. This isn't necessary. It is, she insisted. Because when I was lying there, unable to breathe, all I could think about was how cruel I've been. How I've hurt those kids because I was jealous of you. I blinked. Jealous. Tears welled in her eyes. You've always been. Everything I wasn't. The successful doctor, the amazing mother. Even after Mark left, you held it together. I wanted to prove you weren't as perfect as everyone thought. I wanted to hurt you. By hurting my children? My voice wavered. Her lip trembled. I was wrong. So wrong. And then last night, you saved me without hesitation. You had every reason to walk away, but you didn't. I sank into the chair beside her bed, exhaustion pressing down on me. Amanda, I'm not perfect, I murmured. I've made mistakes. Plenty of them. But my children? They're the one thing I've done right. And watching you try to turn them against me, that's been the hardest thing I've ever endured. She reached for my hand. And this time, I didn't pull away. I'm so sorry, Alex. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I am truly, deeply sorry. For the first time since meeting Amanda, I saw something real. Not malice. Not manipulation. Just regret. I exhaled slowly. The kids have therapy on Thursday. If you're really sorry, you'll tell them the truth. About everything. She nodded, tears spilling over. I will. I promise. As I left her room, something inside me shifted. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But something lighter. The smallest possibility that maybe, just maybe, my children wouldn't have to grow up carrying the weight of Amanda's hatred. The aftermath. That night, as I tucked Emma and Lucas into bed, Emma hesitated. Mom, is Aunt Amanda going to be okay? Yes, sweetie, I murmured, smoothing her hair. She's going to be fine. Lucas blinked sleepily. Did you save her? I smiled faintly. I did what doctors do. I helped someone who needed help. Emma frowned. Even though she's mean to us. I thought for a moment. Sometimes, I said carefully, being kind to people who haven't been kind to us changes things in ways we never expect. As I turned out their lights, I realized how true that was. Tomorrow would bring new battles. Amanda's apology didn't erase the past. But for the first time in months, I had hope. Hope that wounds could heal. That truth could mend what lies had broken. That maybe, just maybe, kindness had the power to change everything. Thursday arrived faster than I expected. In the waiting room of Dr. Peters' office, Emma and Lucas sat quietly, coloring while we waited for Amanda. When she walked in, she lacked her usual confident stride. Instead, she clutched her purse as if it were a shield, her eyes searching the room nervously. Aunt Amanda. Emma looked up, surprised. Are you sick again? No, sweetheart, Amanda replied softly. I'm here to talk to you and Lucas. To tell you some very important things. Dr. Peters welcomed us into her office, arranging the chairs in a small circle. Lucas immediately climbed into my lap, while Emma sat between Amanda and me, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. Amanda has something she'd like to share with you both. Dr. Peters began gently. Remember how we talked about feelings being complicated and how it's okay to feel different things at the same time? Both children nodded. Amanda took a deep breath. Emma, Lucas, she began, her voice trembling slightly. I need to tell you that I was very wrong about a lot of things. I said things about your mom that weren't true, and that wasn't fair, to you or to her. Lucas tightened his grip on my hand, like when he said Mommy didn't love us. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. Yes, exactly like that. Those were lies, and I'm so sorry I told them. Your mom loves you more than anything in the world. She's an amazing mother who would do anything for you. Emma frowned, her voice sharp with hurt. Then why did you say those mean things? Why did you try to make us love Jessica more? Amanda swallowed hard. Because I was jealous, she admitted. I was angry about things that had nothing to do with you, and I took it out on you and your mom. That was wrong of me. As Amanda continued, she apologized for specific moments, unraveling the web of lies she had spun. I watched as Emma and Lucas absorbed her words, their expressions shifting between confusion, hurt, and something softer, understanding. Your mother proved what kind of person she is when I was in the hospital. Amanda continued. She saved my life, even though I have been horrible to her. That's the kind of person your mom is, someone who helps others, even when they don't deserve it. Emma turned to me, her wide eyes filled with wonder. Is that true, Mom? Did you really save Aunt Amanda? I nodded. It's what doctors do, honey. We help people who need help. Even mean people? Lucas asked innocently. Even mean people, I confirmed. Because sometimes people can change and become better. Dr. Peters guided the conversation, helping Emma and Lucas express their feelings. Amanda listened, really listened, as they shared how her words had confused and hurt them. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, Amanda told them sincerely. What I did was wrong, and I understand if it takes time to trust me again. But I promise I'm going to try to be a better aunt to you both. As the session ended, a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying lifted slightly. It wasn't perfect. The past couldn't be undone. But it was a start. In the parking lot, Amanda hesitated before speaking. Alex, I've been thinking. I want to talk to Mark about modifying the custody arrangements. The kids shouldn't have to go through so many changeovers. They need more stability, with you. I studied her, looking for any sign of manipulation, but found only sincerity. Thank you, I said simply. Over the next few months, things shifted. Amanda kept her word, not just stopping her campaign against me, but actively working to repair the damage. She even spoke to Mark, encouraging him to be more present in the kids' lives instead of trying to replace me with Jessica. One Sunday afternoon, while I was in the garden with Emma and Lucas, Amanda stopped by, holding out a small paper bag. Peace offering, she said hesitantly. Seed packets. I thought the kids might like to learn about growing their own food. Emma, who had been wary of Amanda's changes, brightened. Can we plant tomatoes, Mom? Like the ones in the hospital garden you told us about. As I watched Amanda kneel beside them, patiently explaining how to plant each seed, I realized something. Change wasn't always grand gestures. Sometimes it was in the quiet moments, the small steps toward something better. That night, as I tucked the kids into bed, Emma asked, Mom, is it okay that I'm starting to like Aunt Amanda again? I smoothed her hair. Of course it is, sweetheart. People can change when they really want to. And it seems like Aunt Amanda really wants to. Because you saved her? Lucas piped up from his bed. I thought for a moment. No, I said softly. I think sometimes people save themselves. They just need a reason to try. As I closed their bedroom door, I exhaled. The emergency that had brought Amanda to my operating table hadn't just saved her life. It had given our family a chance to heal. There were still difficult moments, still wounds that would take time to mend. But we were moving forward. And sometimes that was the biggest victory of all. My mother-in-law, Margaret, yelled loudly in the hospital, waving a folder of papers. She's unstable. She needs to be committed right now. I sat quietly, feeling oddly calm, my hand resting on a small USB drive in my pocket. My name is Olivia Parker. I'm 34 years old, and I never thought I'd be in a psychiatric emergency room while my mother-in-law tried to convince doctors that I was losing my mind. But Margaret always found ways to try to get rid of me. She talks to herself all the time, Margaret continued, pretending to be worried. She has angry outbursts and crazy ideas. Just last week, she accused me of messing with her medication. The young doctor looked at me, clearly confused by the difference between Margaret's words and my calm appearance. What Margaret didn't know was that I had been preparing for this for months. I first became suspicious 6 months ago when I overheard her talking on the phone. Don't worry, I have a plan, she told her friend. She won't be in my son's life much longer. I just need enough evidence. I married her son, David, 3 years ago. From the beginning, Margaret made it clear that I wasn't the kind of wife she wanted for him. I didn't come from the right family, and I encouraged David to start his own business instead of joining his father's law firm. She's isolating David from us. Margaret's voice shook as if she were hurt. He barely visits anymore, and when he does, she watches his every move. I almost laughed at the irony, but the situation was too serious. The truth was, David had chosen to distance himself from his family's controlling behavior. He wanted to run his own sustainable energy business, not become a corporate lawyer like his parents wanted. But Margaret blamed me for his choices. Dr. Stevens, the doctor, looked at the papers Margaret had given him. These are serious claims, Mrs. Harrison, he said, but we need to do our own evaluation. Margaret's face tightened for a moment, her perfect act slipping. But I have proof, she said, showing more papers. Look at these messages and emails. She's clearly unstable. I had to admit she was thorough. She had created fake evidence, including edited screenshots, fake diary entries, and statements from concerned neighbors who didn't even exist. Dr. Stevens turned to me. Mrs. Parker, would you like to respond to these accusations? I smiled calmly, my hand still on the USB drive. I'd like to speak with you alone, doctor. Margaret's eyes narrowed. No, she'll lie to you. She's very manipulative. Dr. Stevens stayed calm. Mrs. Harrison, it's standard to speak to the patient in private. Please wait outside. Margaret tried to argue, but a nurse gently led her to the waiting room. She looked back at me angrily, clearly upset that her plan wasn't going perfectly. Once we were alone, Dr. Stevens asked, would you like to tell me your side of the story? I took out the USB drive. I'd like to show you this first. He took the drive. What's on it? 6 months of evidence showing that my mother-in-law has been trying to make me look unstable. There are videos, phone recordings, and detailed notes of everything she's done, including planning this visit to the hospital. Dr. Stevens plugged the USB drive into his computer. As he watched the videos of Margaret planting fake evidence, listened to her phone calls, and read my notes, his face became serious. I set up security cameras after I heard her plotting against me, I explained. Everything is dated and verified. I also have reports from my own doctor and therapist confirming my mental health. Dr. Stevens looked at me. Mrs. Parker, this is very troubling. But it's about your mother-in-law, not you. Her actions seem very calculated. I nodded. That's why I documented everything. I knew she was planning something like this. Does your husband know? He asked. No, he's on a business trip until tomorrow. Margaret knew that and planned this for when he was away. She wanted me committed before he came back. Dr. Stevens made some notes. You've handled this incredibly well. Most people would have reacted emotionally to such harassment. I knew that's what she wanted, for me to act out and prove her right. So I stayed calm and kept records. Dr. Stevens stood up. Mrs. Parker, what she did, trying to get you committed with false evidence, is a serious crime. Are you willing to file a formal complaint? I felt relief wash over me. Yes, it's time she faced the consequences. As he went to make his calls, I thought about Margaret sitting in the waiting room, probably imagining me being taken away in restraints. She had no idea that her plan was falling apart. The USB drive had been my safeguard, my proof of the truth. Now it would be her downfall. I pulled out my phone and texted David. It was time he learned what his mother had been doing. The emergency room was busy, but I stayed calm, ignoring the 3 missed calls from Robert, Margaret's husband. She must have called him when her plans started falling apart. I put my phone on silent as Dr. Stevens returned with 2 police officers. Mrs. Parker, one of the officers said, introducing himself as Detective Morris, we need your statement about these allegations of attempted false commitment. I nodded, noticing Margaret pacing on the other side of the glass wall. Her face turned pale when she saw the police. She's been planning this for months, I explained, showing the detective more evidence on my phone. Here's a recording from last month where she talks about getting me out of the picture with her friend Sandra. And these are emails she sent to doctors, trying to create a fake history of mental issues for me. Detective Morris looked through the evidence, his expression growing serious. This is detailed. The amount of planning is worrying. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Landing early. What's going on? Dad called saying Mom's at the hospital with you? I quickly replied, I'm fine. Your mom tried to have me committed. Come to Memorial Hospital. Bring your laptop. Dr. Stevens asked, would you like us to speak with Mrs. Harrison now? Before I could respond, Margaret stormed into the room. Her calm act was gone. Why are the police here? This is a private family matter. Detective Morris faced her. Mrs. Harrison, we need to talk about your attempt to falsely commit your daughter-in-law to a psychiatric facility. Margaret's face twisted with anger. I was trying to help her. She's unstable. She's been spying on me. Isn't that proof she's paranoid? I couldn't help but smile. No, Margaret. It shows I was ready. Every time you showed up uninvited, planted fake evidence, or plotted against me, It's all recorded. Her face turned red with rage. You little mother. David's voice cut through the tension. He stood in the doorway, laptop in hand, his face filled with confusion and anger. What did you do? Margaret's demeanor changed instantly. David, thank goodness you're here. I was just trying to help Olivia. She's not well. I was only. Stop, David interrupted firmly, setting up his laptop. I want to see all this evidence. For the next half hour, David watched the security footage of Margaret sneaking around our house. He listened to her phone conversations where she plotted against me and read her manipulative emails to doctors. With each piece of evidence, his face grew darker. You did all of this? David asked, his voice heavy with disbelief. You tried to get my wife committed. Margaret's eyes filled with fake tears. I was protecting you. She's changed you, turned you against us, convinced you to throw away your future on that stupid energy business. David cut her off. My business is successful. I'm happy. Olivia supports me. The only one tearing this family apart is you. Detective Morris spoke up. Mrs. Harrison, you'll need to come to the station to make a formal statement. Margaret's plan was crumbling, her perfect image shattered. Her son was seeing her true colors for the first time. David, she begged, you can't let them do this. I'm your mother. Yes, David said quietly, his eyes cold. Which makes this even worse. He looked at me. Olivia, do you want to press charges? I looked at Margaret, seeing not a powerful enemy, but a desperate, broken woman. That depends on Margaret. If she agrees to get counseling and keep her distance, we can handle this privately. But if not... Margaret's mouth dropped open. You're blackmailing me? I shook my head. No, I'm giving you a chance to fix this before it gets worse. It's your choice. Margaret realized she was out of options. Her shoulders slumped, her fight gone. Fine, she whispered. I'll get counseling. David wrapped his arm around me. I'm so sorry, he said softly. I had no idea she could do this. The police took Margaret's statement, and Dr. Stevens documented her attempt to falsely commit me. It was over. Her plan had failed, undone by the very things she accused me of. Careful observation and preparation. As the police led Margaret out, David turned to me. How did you stay so calm through all of this? I smiled, thinking of the months of planning, the careful collection of evidence, and the patience it took. Sometimes the best way to win is to let someone think they're winning, until they lose everything. 3 months after Margaret tried to have me committed, life slowly returned to normal. Things were different though. Margaret went to counseling every week, just as she had promised. David added more security to our house, and family gatherings felt different now, quieter, more careful. One morning, I was having coffee in our backyard when David handed me an envelope. Letter from Mom, he said. As part of her therapy, Margaret wrote me letters every week to practice better communication and respect boundaries. The letter began, Dear Olivia, today in therapy, we talked about control and why I felt the need to have it. I realized my actions weren't really about you. They were about my own fear of losing influence over David's life. At first, her letters were full of excuses, but over time, they became more sincere, showing she was trying to understand and make things right. It would take a while for me to trust her again, but I appreciated her effort. How is she doing? I asked David. He still met with his mom once a week, but only in public places as we agreed. Better, he said, sitting beside me. She actually asked about my business yesterday. No comments about law school or my wasted potential. It's progress, I guess. The hospital incident had forced a lot of truths into the open. David finally talked to his father about all the years of pressure and control. Robert, shocked by Margaret's actions, started going to counseling with her. Their marriage was changing too, as Margaret learned to let go of some control. Sandra, who had helped Margaret with her plan, sent me a long apology email, admitting what she did and saying she was sorry. I forgave her but kept my distance. Some things just couldn't go back to how they were before. My phone buzzed with a message from Margaret. Would you meet for coffee next week? My therapist thinks it's time we talked face to face. Only if you're ready. I showed David the message. 3 months ago, this would have felt like a trap. Now, it seemed like a genuine attempt to make peace. It's up to you, David said, squeezing my hand. No pressure. I thought about the USB drive with all the evidence I had gathered, still locked in our safe. I hadn't needed it since the day at the hospital, but knowing it was there made me feel safe. I'll meet her, I decided. In public during the day, and I'll drive myself. David smiled. You're setting good boundaries. Your therapist would be proud. The next week, I arrived at the coffee shop early and picked a table where I could see both exits. Old habits die hard. Margaret arrived right on time. She looked the same, but her eyes were softer, less sharp. Thank you for coming, she said as she sat down. I wasn't sure you would. Honestly, I wasn't sure either, I admitted. We sat in awkward silence until our coffee arrived. Margaret spoke first. I've been trying to understand why I felt so threatened by you. My therapist says it's because you represented change. I fought so hard to keep control that I nearly ruined everything. I stirred my coffee, thinking before I spoke. You know what's funny? If you had just given me a chance, you would have seen that I never wanted to take David away from his family. I just wanted him to live his life the way he chose. Margaret sighed. I see that now. Seeing him succeed in his business, seeing how happy he is. I was wrong. We talked for almost 2 hours, facing hard truths and setting new boundaries. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As we got ready to leave, Margaret hesitated. That day at the hospital, she said, her voice shaky, you could have pressed charges. You could have ruined me. Why didn't you? I thought about the USB drive and the months I spent gathering evidence. Because winning isn't always about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about giving them a chance to change. Margaret looked at me, understanding in her eyes. I don't deserve your forgiveness. No, I agreed. But I'm giving it anyway. Don't waste it. That night, I told David about the meeting. It's strange, I said, but I think I understand your mother better now than I did before. Well, you're both stubborn and strategic, he teased. You just use your powers for good. I laughed, thinking about how differently things could have turned out. I could have used the evidence to destroy Margaret's reputation and tear the family apart. Instead, it forced everyone to face the truth and grow from it. A year later, I deleted all the recordings and videos. Not because I fully trusted Margaret, but because I no longer needed them. We had built something new, not quite friendship, but mutual respect. Margaret still sent me letters every week, but now they were about her progress in therapy and genuine questions about our lives. She even started volunteering at a women's shelter, using her need for control to help others regain theirs. Sometimes the best victory isn't defeating your enemy, but helping them change. Margaret's plan to have me committed had failed, but in the end, it brought about the changes we all needed. No regrets? David asked, noticing my thoughtful look. None, I replied with a smile. Sometimes a broken plan is exactly what it takes to fix what's truly broken. They deserve to know the truth. Jessica's voice came from the half-open door of my kids' playroom. Your mom isn't really your mom. She's been lying to you. I froze in the hallway, gripping the laundry basket so hard my knuckles turned white. Through the crack in the door, I saw my sister-in-law sitting with my 2 kids, pretending to care while she tried to turn them against me. My name is Olivia Parker, and I'm 35 years old. I never thought I'd have to defend my relationship with my own children, especially from Jessica. She's been spreading rumors about me ever since I married her brother James 8 years ago. But Mommy takes care of us, my 7-year-old daughter, Emma, said in a small voice. She makes my lunch and reads me stories. Jessica smiled sweetly. Nannies do that too, honey. It doesn't mean she's your real mom. I took a deep breath to steady myself. My 5-year-old son, Lucas, sat quietly, his big blue eyes filled with confusion. The same blue eyes that looked just like mine. Interesting take, Jessica, I said, pushing the door open. My voice was calm, even though I was furious inside. Jessica jumped and turned to face me, clearly surprised. Olivia, I didn't hear you come in. Obviously, I replied, setting down the laundry basket. Kids, why don't you go help Daddy set up for dinner? He needs help with those new placemats you picked out. Emma and Lucas hesitated, then ran off, giving me worried glances as they went downstairs. I waited until they were out of earshot before turning back to Jessica. How dare you, I said quietly. How dare you try to turn my children against me? Jessica stood up and smoothed her jeans. I'm just telling them the truth. Everyone knows James married you when Emma was just a baby, and then suddenly you had Lucas. It looks suspicious. I almost laughed at how ridiculous she sounded. Suspicious? I have hospital records and plenty of witnesses who would disagree. Jessica crossed her arms. DNA doesn't lie. And your blue eyes don't match anyone in our family. Get out of my house, I said, my voice cold and steady. And don't come back until you're ready to apologize for your lies. You can't keep me from seeing my niece and nephew, Jessica argued. James won't let you. We'll see about that. After she left, I sat in a playroom surrounded by my kids' toys and drawings. Every one of them was signed from Mommy in their wobbly handwriting. 8 years of bedtime stories, scraped knees, and hugs. Jessica thought she could erase all of that with her lies. I picked up my phone and called a number I had saved months ago, back when Jessica first started gossiping about my children's parentage. Dr. Morrison's office, a friendly voice answered. Hi, this is Olivia Parker. I'd like to schedule that DNA test we talked about. Of course, Mrs. Parker. We can see you tomorrow morning. Perfect, I said, looking at a family photo on the wall. And could you rush the results? I don't care about the cost. That night, after giving my kids extra hugs and stories, I found James in his study. He looked up from his laptop concerned. The kids were quiet at dinner. Is something wrong? I closed the door behind me. Your sister stopped by today. James sighed, rubbing his forehead. What did she do this time? She told our children that I'm not their real mother. His face darkened. She did what? I explained what I heard, watching his jaw tighten. James and I met when Emma was 6 months old, after her biological mother abandoned her. We fell in love, got married, and I adopted Emma before giving birth to Lucas 2 years later. I'll talk to her, James said, reaching for his phone. This needs to stop. Wait, I said, putting my hand on his. I have a better plan. But I need you to trust me. He looked at me for a moment, then nodded. Always. The next morning, I went to Dr. Morrison's office for the DNA test. It was quick, just a cheek swab. As I left, I made one more call. Hi, Jessica. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, I said, keeping my voice light. You're right, DNA doesn't lie. Why don't you come over next Friday? We can look at the results together. She paused. Fine, but don't expect me to apologize when I'm proven right. I smiled. Oh, I'm not expecting that. Not yet. As I drove home, I thought about the other set of results that would be arriving with mine. Jessica had recently taken a DNA test too, and working as a nurse at the hospital had its perks, like knowing which tests were being done and on whom. Jessica had her own secrets, ones she was trying to hide by spreading lies about me. But in 1 week, the truth would come out. Some lies come back to haunt the ones who tell them. I pulled into the driveway, watching Emma and Lucas play outside with James. My children in every way that mattered. And soon, everyone would know that too. The week felt like it would never end. Every night, I hugged my kids a little tighter during bedtime stories, trying to see if Jessica's words had affected them. Emma was more clingy than usual, and Lucas watched me with curious eyes when he thought I wasn't looking. Mommy, Emma asked one night as I tucked her in, why did Aunt Jessica say those mean things? I sat on the edge of her bed, smoothing her dark hair that looked just like her father's. Sometimes people say hurtful things because they're unhappy inside, but that doesn't mean those things are true. Daddy said you picked me, she whispered, hugging her stuffed rabbit close. I smiled and kissed her forehead. I did. I chose you when I adopted you, and then we were blessed with Lucas. Being a mom isn't just about DNA, it's about love. On Thursday afternoon, 2 envelopes arrived. My hands trembled as I held them. One was my DNA test, which confirmed what I already knew. The other was Jessica's genetic screening, the secret she was trying to hide. I put both envelopes in my desk drawer, ready for tomorrow's showdown. That night, James found me looking at old photos in our bedroom. He sat beside me, concern in his eyes. You okay? I showed him a picture from the hospital when Lucas was born. Jessica was there that day. She saw me give birth. How can she say he isn't mine? James put his arm around me. She's been jealous of you from the start. I think she's scared of losing her place in Emma's life. But I never tried to replace anyone. I said, I just love them both. I know, he whispered. That's what scares her. Friday morning was bright and clear. I set up coffee and pastries in the living room, arranging everything carefully. James took the kids to school, giving me time to prepare. At exactly 10 o'clock, Jessica showed up, perfectly dressed and ready for the fight. Come in, I said calmly. Coffee? She looked at me suspiciously but followed me inside. Let's get this over with. Where are the results? I poured her a cup of coffee. First, let's talk about why you're doing this. Doing what? She snapped. Telling the truth. I sat across from her, studying her face. No, trying to break my bond with my children. Is it because you're afraid of your own secret getting out? Her cup rattled against the saucer. I don't know what you mean. Don't you? I took out both envelopes. One is my DNA test, proving that Lucas is biologically mine and that I adopted Emma. The other, I paused, watching her face go pale, is your genetic screening. Her eyes widened. You had no right. And you had no right to lie to my kids, I shot back. Here's the deal. You're going to open my DNA results first and then apologize to my children for lying to them. And if I refuse, I tapped the second envelope. Then everyone will find out about your own genetic condition, the one you're so desperate to hide. Jessica looked at the envelopes, her hands trembling. Realizing she was trapped, she reached for the first one. The DNA results were clear. She read them twice, her face getting paler each time. This doesn't change anything, she whispered, but even she didn't believe it. It changes everything, I said firmly. You have a choice. Make this right, or I'll open the other envelope. Tears filled her eyes. I was trying to protect our family. No, you were trying to protect yourself. But hurting my children wasn't the answer. A tear ran down her cheek. How am I supposed to face everyone if they find out? I softened my voice. The same way I face challenges, with truth and love. Your genetic condition doesn't define you, but your actions do. She looked at the second envelope, fear in her eyes. If I apologize and make things right, will you keep this private? I reached out and took her hand. Yes, because no matter what, you're still family. That afternoon, when Emma and Lucas came home from school, Jessica was waiting with me in the living room. Her makeup was perfect, but she looked different, softer, almost nervous. I took a deep breath. Kids, Aunt Jessica has something to say. Emma held her backpack tight, half hiding behind me, while Lucas stood tall, his little chin up. My brave kids, already so protective of our family. Jessica got down on her knees so she was at their level. I need to say sorry, she said, her voice shaky. What I said about your mommy, it was wrong. You made Emma cry, Lucas said, his hand gripping mine. I know, Jessica whispered, her eyes sad. I was wrong to say those things. Your mommy is your real mommy in every way that matters. She loves you more than anything, and I never should have made you doubt that. Emma peeked out from behind me. Then why did you say those mean things? Jessica looked at me, then back at the kids. Sometimes grown-ups say hurtful things when they're sad or scared. But that doesn't make it right. I love you both, and I'm so sorry for hurting you. The kids looked at her, their faces serious as they thought about her words. Then Emma stepped closer and gently patted Jessica's hand. Mommy says we should forgive people when they say sorry and mean it. Tears filled Jessica's eyes. Your mommy is very wise. That night, after the kids were in bed, Jessica stayed behind. She stood by her car, her shoulders tense. Thank you, she said softly, for keeping my secret and giving me a chance to make this right. I nodded. We all have struggles, but we don't have to face them alone. She hesitated. Would you come with me to my next doctor's appointment? I've been scared to go by myself. I surprised us both by hugging her. Of course. That's what family does. Over the next few months, things changed. Jessica's test results had shown a genetic condition that terrified her. Her actions had come from fear and wanting to control something when everything else felt out of control. I went with her to appointments and helped her research treatments. As she faced her fears, she started to change. She was less sharp, less competitive. She joined us more often for family dinners, and this time she was present in a real way, not trying to come between me and the kids. One Sunday afternoon, I found her helping Emma with an art project. They were surrounded by glitter and paper, laughing together. Look, Mommy, Emma said, showing me a colorful family tree. She had included everyone. Me, James, Lucas, both sets of grandparents, and Jessica. Family wasn't just about blood. It was about love and choice. It's beautiful, sweetheart, I said, meeting Jessica's eyes. She smiled, a genuine, warm smile. Emma wanted to understand what family means, Jessica explained. And I think I needed that lesson too. Later, as we watched the kids play outside, Jessica admitted, "I used to be jealous of you. It seems so easy for you to fit into this family, to be their mom. I thought that if I could prove you didn't belong, it would make me feel more secure." "And now?" I asked. She watched Lucas showing off his superhero moves, his face glowing with pride. "Now I see that love isn't something you have to compete for. There's enough for all of us." That night, as I tucked Emma into bed, she asked, "Is Aunt Jessica okay now?" "She's working on it," I said, stroking her hair. "Just like we all try to be better every day. I'm glad she's not sad anymore." Emma mumbled, her eyes closing. "And I'm glad you're my mommy." "Me too, baby," I whispered. "Me too." In the end, it wasn't DNA that made us a family. It was our choice to love, to support, and to forgive each other. Jessica's journey became part of our story, not one of anger and hurt, but one of healing and growth. "You're just imagining things," Margaret cooed, patting my hand with mock concern. Her touch was light, but beneath it, I felt the weight of something darker. I sat at her pristine dining table, my head throbbing, my vision blurring. My blood sugar numbers made no sense. Wild swings despite my meticulous management. Something was wrong. Deeply, terrifyingly wrong. "My name is Olivia Parker. I'm 34 years old, and I've been managing my type 1 diabetes for over 2 decades. I know my body. I know when something isn't right. And ever since moving closer to my in-laws 6 months ago, my readings have been erratic, dangerous even." "Maybe you're just stressed," Margaret suggested smoothly, sliding a cup of tea toward me. "All this obsessing over numbers can't be good for you. You know, my friend's daughter cured her diabetes with essential oils." I forced a smile, though my smartwatch buzzed another urgent warning against my wrist. Margaret had never approved of me, the woman who had trapped her precious son with a chronic illness. As if I had chosen this. As if I hadn't told James everything when we started dating 5 years ago. "I've been managing my diabetes for 20 years, I said, keeping my voice even. "I know when something is wrong." Margaret's lips tightened, her eyes flickering with something unreadable. "Well, if you just try some of my natural remedies instead of all those harsh chemicals." I barely heard her. My fingers were already checking my glucose monitor again. The numbers didn't add up, not for the insulin I had taken, not for the food I had eaten. And then, as I glanced up, I caught something. Margaret was watching me. Closely, her gaze sharp, calculating. The first real suspicion had come 2 weeks ago when I'd stayed at her house while James was away. She insisted, claiming she worried about me being alone with my condition. My levels had been a disaster during that visit, but the moment I returned home, they stabilized. Then it happened again, at Sunday dinner, and now, after using the insulin she kept at her house just in case. The insulin she had insisted on keeping, my numbers were spiraling again. "More tea?" she asked, already reaching for my cup. I hesitated, watched her, noticed the slight tremor in her hand, the way she avoided my eyes. "No," I stood abruptly. "I should get home. I need to check my backup insulin." "Don't be silly," she said quickly, too quickly. "You just took your insulin here. And you know what the doctor said about driving when your sugar's unstable." I hadn't told her about my last doctor's visit. My smartwatch buzzed again. Another spike. Another red warning flashing across my screen. And then I saw it, the pattern. Every erratic reading traced back to one thing. Margaret. "I've been tracking everything," I said quietly, pulling out my phone. "Every dose, every meal, every visit. Would you like to see the pattern?" Margaret paled. "You and your gadgets. In my day, we didn't need all this technology to stay healthy." "In your day," I said, "a lot of diabetics didn't survive." I grabbed my purse, heart pounding. I had to get home, had to check my supplies. But as I turned toward the door, something caught my eye. The kitchen trash can. An empty glucose tablet container. The same brand I kept in my emergency kit here. Margaret stepped in front of me, blocking a way. "I'll walk you out," she said, too eager, too tense. But I was already moving, past her, toward the kitchen drawer where she kept my emergency insulin. The sight that greeted me turned my blood to ice. Empty insulin cartridges, glucose tablet bottles, their seals broken. One still dusted with fine powder, refilled with something else. "What are you doing?" Margaret's voice shot up an octave, sharp with panic. That's private property. Private? I turned, holding up an empty insulin cartridge. Like my medication is private. What did you do, Margaret? Switch my insulin with saline. Replace my glucose tablets with sugar pills. Her face twisted. I was trying to help, she snapped. If you just get sick enough, maybe you try real cures instead of all these toxic chemicals. Then James wouldn't have to worry about having sick children. The room tilted, not from my blood sugar, from the sheer cold calculation of it. My phone was already in my hand, the health app open, displaying the undeniable proof. The spikes, the crashes, the deliberate sabotage. I've been documenting everything, I said, my voice eerily steady. And now I have proof. Margaret's expression hardened. No one will believe you. You're just an unstable diabetic who can't manage her own condition. Who do you think James will trust? His loving mother or his pharmaceutical-dependent wife? A strange calm settled over me. I pressed a button on my phone, stopping the recording. Why don't we ask him? I said quietly. And then from the doorway, a sound. The front door closing. James stood there, pale, his phone in his hand, open to the emergency alert I had set up weeks ago. The one that triggered when my levels became dangerous. Margaret's mask shattered. James. Margaret's voice shot up, brittle with panic. I can explain everything. I was just trying to protect you. Protect me? James stepped into the kitchen, his expression a storm of betrayal and disbelief. By tampering with Olivia's medication. By risking her life. I gripped the counter, my phone still recording, my smartwatch vibrating another urgent alert against my wrist. James saw the numbers flash on the screen and immediately moved to my side. We need to get you to the hospital, he said, his arm steady around me. Your levels have been all over the place for the last hour. No, Margaret lunged toward the door, blocking our way. She's manipulating you, James. She's faking these readings, trying to turn you against me. I'm your mother. I forced my shaking hands to steady as I pulled up my health app. Look at the pattern, James, I said, my voice low but firm. Every dangerous spike coincides with visits here. Every irregularity happens after I take insulin from the supply she insisted on keeping. James took my phone, scrolling through the data. His face darkened as he read my careful notes. Dates, times, symptoms, photographic evidence of my medication before and after it was in Margaret's care. The timestamps, he murmured, his jaw tightening. The photos. The pattern. His gaze snapped back to his mother. What did you do? Margaret's composure fractured further. I did what any loving mother would do. That insulin she takes, it's poison. I was trying to show her there are natural alternatives. If she had just gotten sick enough to try them. Sick enough? James's voice sharpened with fury. She could have died. Do you even understand that? Diabetes isn't some minor inconvenience you can cure with essential oils and wishful thinking. It's a medical condition that requires actual treatment. The room tilted, not from my blood sugar, but from the weight of her words, the full, awful realization of what she had been willing to risk. James caught me as my knees wobbled, his grip sure, steady. He checked my glucose monitor, his medical training taking over even as rage burned behind his eyes. We're leaving, he announced, his voice cold, final. And we're taking Olivia's compromised medication as evidence. Margaret went pale. Evidence? Evidence for what? For the police, I said quietly. Tampering with prescription medication is a felony, Margaret. Did you know that? She let out a high, brittle laugh. You wouldn't dare. I'm family. Family doesn't try to kill family. James shot back, already gathering the empty insulin cartridges and altered glucose tablets. Family doesn't swap out life-saving medication with placebos. I kept the originals, I added, watching her reaction closely. Untouched. The lab can compare them. My endocrinologist has already flagged my erratic readings. Margaret's mask cracked completely, raw desperation bleeding through. Everything I did for you, James. She trapped you with this illness. Any children you have could be sick too. I was trying to free you. Free me? His voice was ice. By slowly poisoning my wife. By playing God with her life because you refused to accept reality. Margaret's face twisted with something ugly. She's made you weak, she spat. The James I raised would understand that sometimes difficult choices must be made for the greater good. A sick chill ran through me. The greater good. I echoed, still recording. Like committing a felony? Like risking someone's life because you don't approve of their medical condition. James was already on the phone, explaining everything to my endocrinologist. Through the speaker, I heard the doctor's alarmed response, insisting I come in immediately for evaluation and documentation. Margaret's hands clenched into fists. "If you leave with her," she said, her voice shaking with fury, "if you do this to your own mother, don't expect to be welcomed back into this house." James hung up and met her gaze. For the first time, he truly saw her, not as the mother who had raised him, but as the woman who had nearly cost his wife her life. "If Olivia had died because of you," he said, his voice hollow with restrained rage, "welcome would be the least of your concerns." I took a breath, steadying myself. "I saved everything," I told her. "Every reading. Every text where you insisted on keeping my medication here. Every photo of the tampered supplies. The police will have everything they need." Margaret's expression collapsed into disbelief, then fury. "You planned this? You trapped me." "No, Margaret," I replied as James guided me toward the door. "I protected myself. There's a difference." As we stepped outside, her voice followed us, desperate, shifting between threats and pleas. But James never looked back. His grip on me was firm, unyielding, as he helped me into the car. My smartwatch buzzed one final warning, another dangerous blood sugar alert. But for the first time in months, I knew exactly why my levels had been erratic. And more importantly, I had the proof to end it. The drive to the hospital was quiet, heavy with the weight of everything that had just unfolded. James held my hand the entire way, his fingers curled tightly around mine, as if he could anchor me to something safe. I knew this wasn't over. The fallout would ripple through our lives for years. But as Margaret's house disappeared in the rearview mirror, I felt something else settle deep in my chest. Vindication. The hospital moved fast once we arrived. My endocrinologist, Dr. Santos, was already waiting, her expression grim as she scanned my glucose readings from the past 6 months. The lab confirmed what we suspected. Margaret had tampered with my insulin, replacing it with saline. The glucose tablets she provided? Nothing more than sugar pills. "You could have died," Dr. Santos said bluntly, looking up from my charts. "If you hadn't documented everything, if you hadn't tracked your symptoms so carefully, this could have ended very differently." I swallowed hard, feeling James's hand tighten around mine. That evening we gave our statements to the police. Detective Martinez listened intently, her expression hardening as she played back the recording of Margaret's confession. The evidence was undeniable. My meticulously tracked health data, the altered medication, the text messages, and most damning of all, Margaret's own words. "This is clear-cut medical tampering," Martinez said. "Your mother-in-law will be facing serious charges." In the weeks that followed, our world shifted. James's family fractured. Some rallied around Margaret, insisting she had simply been a well-meaning mother who had gone too far. Others were horrified, reaching out to offer support, shaken by the realization of what she was capable of. Late one night, James's sister Elena called. Her voice trembled. "I should have spoken up sooner," she admitted. "Mom did something similar when I was in college. My friend had severe allergies and Mom kept insisting she was just being dramatic. She switched her antihistamines with vitamins. We all thought it was just Mom being Mom." The charges against Margaret were swift and severe. Multiple felony counts of medication tampering and reckless endangerment. But she refused to take accountability, choosing instead to paint herself as the victim. "She set me up," Margaret wailed at her first hearing. "She recorded me without my knowledge. She trapped me." Her own lawyer let out a weary sigh. "No, Mrs. Mitchell," he said flatly. "She protected herself, and given your actions, she was absolutely right to do so." Through it all, James never wavered. He cut ties with his mother completely, pouring his energy into my recovery and making sure I was safe, physically, emotionally, medically. We moved farther away, starting fresh in a place where I could manage my health without interference. 6 months later, Margaret accepted a plea deal. 2 years of house arrest, mandatory psychiatric evaluation, no contact with me or any of my medical providers, a legal ban on giving medical advice or handling anyone else's medication. "It's not enough," James said when we heard the terms. "After what she did to you." But I exhaled, feeling something settle inside me. She's exposed now, I said. Everyone knows what she's capable of. She can't hurt anyone else like this. We moved forward, rebuilding our lives. I became an advocate for medical autonomy, sharing my story with support groups. The more I spoke, the more I realized I wasn't alone. Stories of family members interfering with life-saving treatment, of medical abuse disguised as concern, were more common than I had ever imagined. My health stabilized under my own control. Dr. Santos helped refine my tracking systems, though she often reminded me, "Your attention to detail saved your life. Never let anyone make you doubt what you know about your own body." A year later, I received a letter from Margaret's psychiatrist. She wanted to arrange a supervised meeting as part of Margaret's therapy. I didn't hesitate. I declined. Some bridges, I told James, once burned should stay that way. He pulled me into a tight hug, no words needed. We had built something stronger from the wreckage, a life anchored in trust, in respect, in the unwavering knowledge that we would protect each other at all costs. My smartwatch still buzzes with glucose alerts, but now they're predictable, manageable. Each reading isn't just data, it's proof. Proof of my control, my resilience, my survival. Margaret tried to make my illness a weakness, a means to control me. But in the end, it was my knowledge of my own body, my relentless insistence on documenting the truth that exposed her. She wanted my story to end in tragedy. Instead, I turned it into a testament to strength. These aren't real children. They don't belong in our family. Sarah's voice cut through the courthouse hallway like a blade. The doors slammed behind her, the sharp echo lingering in the air. My children flinched at the sound, and I tightened my hold on them, my arms a shield against the cruelty that had just stormed out. I'm Olivia, and at 34, I was finally about to become the legal mother of the two most extraordinary children in the world, 10-year-old Maya and 8-year-old Lucas. After 3 years of fostering, today was supposed to be our happiest day. Instead, my sister-in-law had made it her mission to poison it. "Mom?" Maya's voice was small, uncertain, as she looked up at me, her dark eyes filled with questions no child should have to ask. "Does Aunt Sarah hate us?" I swallowed the fury rising in my throat. "Not today. Don't let her take this day from them." "No, sweetheart," I said softly, forcing warmth into my voice. "Aunt Sarah just doesn't understand what family really means." Tom's hand found my shoulder, his grip firm with restrained anger. His jaw was tight, his breath measured. "I'll talk to her," he muttered, already turning toward the door. I caught his arm. "No. Stay." My voice was steady, absolute. "Your sister's drama isn't worth missing this moment. Today is about us. Our family." The judge, who had witnessed the entire ordeal, offered a small, sympathetic smile. "Shall we continue?" We stepped back into the courtroom, but Sarah's words clung to me like a shadow. They weren't new. For years, she'd had questioned our decision to foster. "Why can't you just have your own kids?" She asked at family gatherings, as if Maya and Lucas weren't right there, hearing every word. "They're not blood. They'll never truly be part of us." But Sarah didn't know our story. She didn't see the way Maya clung to me during thunderstorms, whispering about the parents she barely remembered. She didn't hear the pure joy in Lucas's voice when he called Tom Dad for the first time. She didn't witness the quiet moments, the bedtime stories, the scraped knees I kissed better, the whispered I love yous in the dark. She didn't see how we had already become a family. And now the law was about to make it official. When the judge finally declared Maya and Lucas ours, a tear slipped down my cheek. No more waiting. No more temporary. No more fear of losing them. They were my children. Forever. That night, we celebrated with Tom's parents, our true family. But while we laughed over cake and presents, my phone buzzed repeatedly. "Sarah, you're making a huge mistake. These kids will never truly be family. What will people think? Mom and Dad deserve real grandchildren." I showed the messages to Tom's parents. Martha read them in silence, her expression hardening. James sighed, rubbing a tired hand over his face. "I don't know where we went wrong with Sarah," Martha murmured before pulling Maya and Lucas into a fierce hug. "But these are our grandchildren, and we couldn't be prouder." James ruffled Lucas's hair. "Blood doesn't make a family, love does. And this room is full of it." The kids beamed, but I saw the weight of Sarah's words still lingering in their eyes. That night, after tucking them in, I sat with Tom, my composure finally breaking. I can take Sarah's hatred toward me, I whispered, but I won't let her hurt our children. Tom's arms wrapped around me, his voice fierce. She won't. If she can't accept Maya and Lucas, that's her loss, not ours. But I had no idea then that Sarah wasn't done. Her outburst at the courthouse was only the beginning. She was about to unleash a storm that would shake our family to its core. But what she didn't realize was that in trying to tear us apart, she was setting the stage for something none of us could have seen coming. And the lesson she was about to learn? It would change everything. 2 weeks after the adoption ceremony, Sarah launched what could only be described as a campaign against our family. It started with cryptic social media posts questioning the authenticity of adoptive families, thinly veiled attacks that left no doubt about whom she was targeting. Then came the family dinner at Tom's parents' house. I'd hesitated to go, my instincts warning me against it, but Martha had insisted. Don't let her drive you away. This is your family, too. I should have trusted my instincts. Sarah arrived with photo albums, spreading them across the dining room table with exaggerated care. Look at all these beautiful family memories, she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. So many generations of our bloodline. It's important to preserve our real family history. Across the table, Maya and Lucas sat still, their forks idly pushing food around their plates. The glow of excitement they carried since the adoption had dimmed, replaced by quiet uncertainty. I opened my mouth, ready to put an end to Sarah's performance, but Martha beat me to it. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. That's enough, Sarah. Her voice was sharp, final. She began gathering up the albums, snapping them shut with purpose. If you can't see the love in this family, then maybe you need to ask yourself why. Sarah's face flushed. I'm just trying to protect our family legacy, Mom. These children, James cut in, his usually gentle voice edged with steel, are our grandchildren. And right now, they're showing more maturity than you are. Silence fell over the table. Sarah, stiff with indignation, pushed back her chair and stormed out. Again. But the damage was already done. That night, I found Maya on the floor of her bedroom, her artwork torn to shreds around her. I knelt beside her, my chest tightening. Sweetheart, why are you tearing up your drawings? She wouldn't look at me. They're not beautiful, she whispered. They're not real art. Just like I'm not a real daughter. My heart shattered. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tightly as she trembled. Maya, listen to me. I lifted her chin, making sure she met my eyes. You are real. Your art is real. Your place in this family is real, and no one gets to tell you otherwise. The next morning, I made a decision. I called Dr. Anderson, the children's therapist, and arranged for extra sessions. What I didn't expect was what she would suggest during our parent consultation. Your children are incredibly resilient, Dr. Anderson said, scanning her notes. But they shared something interesting. They want to help other foster children understand that they deserve families too. She explained that Maya and Lucas had expressed a desire to create something to help other kids feel less alone. The idea started small. Maya, always artistic, began illustrating a comic book about her journey from foster care to adoption. Lucas, a natural storyteller, helped write the narrative. They called it Hearts Find Home. Then something unexpected happened. The school counselor asked if they could share their comic with other foster children in the district. Soon, Maya and Lucas were invited to speak at a local community center. I watched awestruck as my children stood in front of a room full of foster kids and shared their story with courage beyond their years. Maya held up her drawings, explaining how art helped her process big emotions. Lucas spoke about how terrifying it had been to trust a new family, but how worth it had been. Family isn't about blood, Maya said, her voice gaining strength. It's about love. It's about choosing each other every day. A little girl in the audience raised her hand. But what if someone says you're not a real family? Lucas didn't hesitate. Then they're wrong. His voice was steady, sure. Love makes a family real. And sometimes the family that chooses you is more real than the one you're born into. I recorded the whole thing, planning to share it with Tom when he got home from a business trip. But before I knew it, the video had made its way to Martha, who shared it with her church group. From there, it spread. Local news picked up the story. Messages poured in from other adoptive families, sharing their own struggles and triumphs. Maya and Lucas's simple comic book had sparked something powerful. And then there was Sarah. For the first time in weeks, her social media fell silent. She missed the next family dinner, sending only a short text. Not feeling well. We later learned from Martha that Sarah had seen the video of Maya and Lucas speaking. What we didn't know then was that Sarah was facing her own hidden battles, ones that would force her to confront her prejudices in a way none of us could have predicted. But for now, watching my children transform pain into purpose, I realized something. The best revenge against cruelty is to create something beautiful from it. Maya and Lucas were no longer victims of Sarah's narrow definition of family. They were advocates. They were turning their story into a light for others. And in doing so, they were healing themselves. That night, as I tucked them into bed, Maya looked up at me. "Mom, do you think we helped those kids today?" I smoothed her hair, smiling. "I know you did, sweetheart." From across the room, Lucas yawned. "Maybe even Aunt Sarah will understand someday." Little did we know that understanding would come far sooner than we ever expected, and in a way that would change our family forever. The turning point came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, a month after Maya and Lucas's presentation at the community center. I was at the kitchen table helping Maya with her homework when the doorbell rang. Opening the door, I found Sarah standing there, rain-soaked and trembling, her mascara streaked down her face. "I need your help," she whispered. Her usual sharp confidence was gone, replaced by something raw, almost unrecognizable. I don't know who else to turn to. I hesitated, instinctively protective of my family, but there was something in her eyes, something fractured, desperate, that made me step aside and let her in. Maya and Lucas, hearing their aunt's voice, hovered near the doorway, watching cautiously. Sarah took a shaky breath and finally told us why she was here. She had been volunteering at a children's hospital, a personal mission to prove to herself that her views on adoption were justified. But instead of reinforcing her beliefs, the experience had shattered them. That was where she met Sophie, a 6-year-old girl abandoned at the hospital by her birth mother, with no family and nowhere to go. "She has no one," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "And all I can think about is how I treated Maya and Lucas. How I tried to deny them a family because of my own stupid prejudices." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Maya, always the first to forgive, stepped forward. "Is Sophie alone at the hospital now?" Sarah nodded, dabbing at her eyes. "The nurses take turns staying with her after their shifts. She reminds me so much of you, Maya. She draws all the time." Lucas, quiet until now, finally spoke. "Maybe we could visit her, show her our comic book." I watched as Sarah's face crumpled at my son's kindness. Kindness she had not earned but so clearly needed. "I'd like that," she whispered. And so, our family began making regular visits to Sophie's hospital room. Maya brought art supplies, patiently teaching Sophie how to sketch. Lucas read to her from his favorite books, his animated storytelling pulling laughter from a child who had known too much sadness. And Sarah began to change. It happened in small but undeniable ways. The way she gently defended Maya to a nosy nurse who questioned our family ties. How she beamed with pride when Lucas got an A on his school project, calling him her nephew without hesitation. The way she lingered by Sophie's bedside, brushing the little girl's hair back the same way I had done for Maya countless times. One evening, as we were leaving the hospital, Sarah pulled me aside. "I was wrong," she said simply, "about everything. Watching you with Maya and Lucas, seeing how they've opened their hearts to Sophie despite how I treated them, I've learned what family really means." But the real shock came 2 months later. Sarah had started the process to become Sophie's foster mother, with the intention of adopting her. "I don't deserve your help," she admitted one evening over coffee, her hands wrapped around the mug as if for warmth. "But Sophie deserves a family, and I want to do this right." Maya and Lucas threw themselves into helping their aunt prepare for Sophie's arrival. They decorated her bedroom, shared their experiences, and even created a special welcome comic book just for their new cousin. And then, finally, the day came. When Sophie walked into Sarah's home for the first time, she found our entire family waiting to welcome her. Martha and James beamed, their pride unmistakable. Tom stood beside me, his arm around my shoulders, watching his sister finally understand what we had known all along. And Maya and Lucas, standing proudly, presented Sophie with their special comic book, one about finding your forever family. See? Maya pointed to a page. Sometimes the best families are the ones that choose each other. Sophie looked up at Sarah, her small hand gripping her new mother's tightly. Like you chose me? Sarah's throat worked as she nodded, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, sweetheart, just like that. Later that night, after the children had settled in, Sarah approached me on the porch, staring out into the yard where Maya, Lucas, and Sophie played under the glow of the porch light. I owe you an apology, she said, but I'm sorry doesn't seem like enough. I met her gaze. You're right, I said. It's not enough. But watching you open your heart to Sophie, watching you become the kind of mother she needs, that means something. Actions speak louder than words, Sarah. She swallowed hard, nodding. Yesterday, Sophie asked if she could call Maya and Lucas her cousins. Real cousins, she said. And I realized they've always been real. I was the one who wasn't seeing clearly. Today, our family gatherings look very different from that tense, painful day at the courthouse. Sophie has blossomed under Sarah's care, her artistic talents thriving with Maya's encouragement. Lucas, ever the protective older cousin, has taken her under his wing, teaching her the important things: how to build the best blanket fort, how to sneak an extra cookie from Grandma Martha's hidden stash. And Sarah? Sarah has become one of the strongest advocates for adoptive families in our community. The photo albums she once used to divide us are now filled with pictures of all our children, celebrating the family we have built, not through blood, but through love. One afternoon, as I sip tea on the porch, Maya calls out to me from the backyard. Mom, come look at what we made. I step outside to find all three children proudly displaying a new family portrait they've drawn together. In it, we stand united, no divisions, no doubts, just love. And that really is the most beautiful ending we could have hoped for.